You don't avoid tattoos because you don't want them. That's the lie you tell yourself. And you've repeated it so many times. It sounds like the truth. The truth is quieter, darker. And the moment I say it out loud, some part of you is already going to recognize it because you've felt it before, in other areas, in other rooms, in other versions of this exact same moment where you almost did something and then didn't. You love tattoos. You just won't get one. And that difference, that gap between loving something and allowing yourself to have it, that's the entire story. Let's talk about what you actually do. You have a folder. Maybe it's on Pinterest. Maybe it's a hidden album on your phone. Designs you've saved at 2 a.m. when something in you cracked open just slightly, and you let yourself want things without immediately punishing yourself for wanting them. Artists you follow. Flash sheets you've screenshot and never shown anyone. You know the style you'd want. Minimal line work, maybe. Something botanical. Something that means something only to you. You've imagined exactly where it would sit on your body. You've imagined it so many times, it almost feels like you already have it. But you don't. And you won't book the appointment. Won't even price it out. The desire is real. Completely, uncomfortably real. But somewhere between feeling it and acting on it, a door closes. Quietly. Without drama. You just don't. And you've told yourself that's wisdom. It isn't. Here's the first layer. A tattoo is permanent. You know that. But the way you know it is different from how other people know it. When you hear permanent, your nervous system responds before your mind can manage it. Because permanent isn't a description, it's a verdict. And somewhere deep in your psychology, you've decided that no verdict about yourself should be final. Because once it's there, you lose the ability to pretend you're still becoming someone else. Think about that. Really sit with it. You live inside the possibility of who you might be. The future version. The one who has it figured out. The one who chooses correctly. A tattoo doesn't just put ink on skin. It pins a version of you to a moment and says, this was real. This mattered. This was chosen. And you don't fully trust the person doing the choosing. That's the thing no one says. That's the thing you've never said out loud. You don't distrust the tattoo. You distrust the person you'll become after choosing it. Your own continuity terrifies you. You've watched your certainties collapse too many times. The things you were sure about. The people you were sure you'd be. And so you've learned, quietly, without deciding to keep yourself unwritten. Because something unwritten can still be anything. Because something unwritten can't be wrong. But go deeper. It's not just fear of the decision. It's fear of definition. You don't avoid tattoos. You avoid defining yourself. Because the moment you define yourself, you lose the ability to pretend you're still figuring it out. This is the real current running underneath everything. You have spent years becoming fluent in adaptation. You know how to be someone different in every room. Professional here, creative there, serious with these people, loose with those ones. You've mastered the art of being almost anything, depending on what the situation requires. A tattoo breaks that. A tattoo says, regardless of who you need me to be today, this is something I am. And you have no idea how to be something unconditionally. You've tied your entire identity to legibility, to being readable, palatable, appropriate. You've made yourself indefinable on purpose, because indefinable means safe. Indefinable means adaptable. Indefinable means you can always course correct. But here's the quiet violence of that strategy. You've been so good at becoming what situations require that you've lost track of what you'd choose if no one needed anything from you. You don't know what you'd put on your skin because you're not sure what's actually in you. And then comes the thinking. God, the thinking. The mental loops that feel like research but are really just fear that learned to use a spreadsheet. You've run the simulation 100 times. Design, placement, artist, meaning, longevity, regret probability. You've Googled how to know if you're ready for a tattoo and come out more paralyzed than before. You've eliminated options, returned to them, changed your mind, started from zero. You call it thinking, but it's just fear, looping until it feels intelligent. And it's working. That's the problem. This is what perfectionism actually is. Not the pursuit of excellence, the management of blame. As long as you're still researching, still deciding, still almost there, you can't be accused of making the wrong choice. But here's what perfectionism costs you. It doesn't protect you from regret. It just delays the moment you'd have to find out. And delay feels like caution. Delay feels like responsibility. Delay feels like you. Every question. What if I hate it? What if I change? What if it doesn't mean the same thing in 10 years? None of it is actually about the tattoo. It's about your terror of being wrong about yourself, of committing to something real and then watching yourself grow past it and having no one to blame but you. You'd rather have nothing than have the wrong thing, and so you have nothing, and you call that being careful. Then there's the image. You know what you project. You've always known. The absence of ink sends a message. Clean, adaptable, unreadable. And you've cultivated that message carefully. You don't just manage how people see you. You avoid anything that would make them see you clearly. Because once people see you clearly, they can decide you're not impressive. Clarity isn't neutral. It's exposure. Right now you exist in a pleasant blur of potential. A tattoo sharpens the image, makes you specific, and specific people can disappoint in ways that vague people never can. So you stay vague, professionally appropriate, casually interesting, nothing too committed, nothing too loud. And exposure means you can be assessed, measured against a fixed point, found wanting. You've mistaken this for sophistication. Now here's the part you really don't want to look at. When you see someone covered in ink, not with horror, not with judgment, but with that thing that lives below judgment. That's not admiration, that's recognition. You're responding to something in them that you've buried in yourself. The audacity of it, the willingness to be visible, to choose something that can't be undone and walk out into the world carrying it. You see people who looked at the calculus. What will they think? What if I change? What if it's wrong? And said, I don't care, and acted. They act. You imagine. And then you call that restraint. That version of you that saves the images at 2 a.m., that's not idle fantasy. That's a suppressed self pressing against the glass. A self that wants to stop calculating and just exist. Loudly, visibly, without permission. But that version is risky, and you've built a life around never being risky. One day I'll get one. You've said it. Maybe out loud, maybe just to yourself. And it felt true when you said it. It always feels true. But you don't delay tattoos. You delay becoming, and then wonder why nothing in your life feels like you. That sentence has lived inside you for years. One day, when I know myself better. One day, when I find the right design. One day, when I feel ready. But notice what one day actually means. Not this version of you. Not the real, unfinished, uncertain self that exists right now. One day lets you love the idea of yourself without requiring anything from the self that actually exists. It lets you feel like someone who would do it, without ever having to. Here's where I have to tell you something you already know, but haven't let yourself fully hear. This is not about tattoos. It never was. This is why your life feels like it's always about to start, but never does. This is the conversation you keep almost having. The creative project in its third year of almost. The relationship you let stay almost close, because fully close meant fully visible. The version of yourself you've been getting ready to become since you were old enough to understand that becoming something requires destroying everything you might have been instead. This is why you hesitate in everything, not just tattoos, decisions, people, opportunities, versions of yourself, the fear of permanence, the identity you won't commit to, the perfectionism that masquerades as wisdom, the image you protect at the cost of the self. Underneath, this isn't a personality quirk. This is a pattern, and patterns don't wait for you to be ready. They just keep running, quietly, in the background, while you save images you'll never act on and make promises to a future self who has the exact same problem you do. You are not waiting until you're ready. You are using readiness as a door that doesn't open. And somewhere, in the real quiet, the kind that only comes at 3 a.m., when the productivity and the plans and the one days fall away, you already know this. You've always known that the life you kept preparing to live was happening the whole time. That the version of you who was going to be bold and committed and visible was going to arrive after one more decision, one more moment of clarity, one more sign. One day, you'll realize the only thing you kept permanent was your hesitation, and by then, it won't feel like a choice anymore. Still waiting, still almost. The blank skin remains, and you keep saving the images.